Hi guys, today we're going to go over how to prepare the Runaway for an extended road trip. Hang around and watch. Hey, before we get started, I want to say I'm not a professional mechanic. I just play one on YouTube. How's that? I've got a few things that I go over. This is by no means an official how-to guide on Runaway. If you have any questions, I would call Runaway Campers and get the official scoop from them. This is just how I do things, so let's get started on this project. I think you'll find it interesting. I think one of the most important things on your Runaway is the tire situation. If you're going down the road and you have a blowout, it can really ruin your day. And you know what, it's so easy to check and make sure everything's okay that I recommend doing this. I just go ahead and replace my tires every couple years just to be safe. But I wouldn't say that's necessary, but that's one of the things I do. And we also, every year you want to make sure the axles are greased. This is something I only do once a year. So usually I do this in about January or so, when it's in the garage, and on one of those weekends I don't have much to do. But just to show you, and because we are going on a long trip, I'm going to show you a couple ways you can grease your axle. So you can go out and buy you a grease gun similar to this. They're pretty inexpensive, probably 10-15 bucks or something like that at Menards or any of the hardware stores. And I just keep this here in the garage and use it. One of the things that I like is, there's all kinds of different recommendations, but personally myself, I like this Lucas red and tacky grease. I like the red grease because what I'm going to do is pump the grease out until all the old grease is out and I see the red coming through. You'll see that in just a minute. So I like the red and tacky. You do what you prefer, but this is the cartridge that goes inside the gun. I just want to bring this out here so you can see. So there's a couple of different ways you can grease the axle. One of them is to take the tire completely off, and that's the method I prefer, and that's what we'll be doing today. But I did want to also show you that you can just take, you see this little cap that's on here, you can take a little screwdriver and just get on there, and you can pop that cap off and get to the grease zerk that way. So you see there's a little plastic cap there, and then all that you got to do is pop the cap off, get your grease gun out and pump a few on there. We're not going to do that today. I just want to show you that you can do that if that's something that you prefer to do. I prefer to take the wheel off because I'm going to show you a couple other things that I like to check when the wheel's off. As you can see here, I got all my stuff positioned together. I got my jack and my jack stand. Now, I don't like to take the wheel off of this without a jack stand underneath it. It makes me feel more safe, and I would recommend that you do that also. So let's get busy on this, but before we want to do that, I'm going to go ahead and loosen these lug nuts on the camper so that when we get this off, we can take the lug nuts off really easy. I have here is a 3/4 inch socket, a short extension, and this breaker bar. And really, I'm not going to take these off. I'm just going to take it loose so that when I'm just going to loosen a little bit so that once I get this up in the air, I don't have to worry about the wheel spinning while I'm doing some work on it. It doesn't hurt to loosen these off. Obviously, you don't want to take the tire all the way off. So once you get the tire loosened up, one of the best things to do is just find a good sturdy place on the frame to jack up with. I had this little piece welded on here that I use for our umbrella from time to time. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the camper up with that because I know that's a nice stable spot. So I just get it up where the tire's a little bit off the ground, and I know I can get the jack stand in there. And then I take this other jack stand here. So now we got our jack stand underneath there, and we can take the wheel off and know that we're safe and nothing's going to happen. Okay, so this is a pretty easy process now that we've got the we've got the lug nuts all loose and everything. I like to put it on here and kind of feel the tire, make sure I don't feel any bumps or anything like that in the tire. This is one of the reasons why I prefer to take the wheel off over doing the cap. So I put my hand up here, kind of just feel it going around and make sure I don't feel any abnormalities of the tire. So then the rest of the thing we do is let's just take these lug nuts off, and then we'll look at the hub further. So once you get all the lug nuts off, the best thing to do is just pick, get your hands on the bottom of the tire and pick up a little bit. You can take it right off the hub and expose everything. So while it's off, what I like to do is just take a peek down inside the rubber here and make sure there's no deep cracks or anything like that. Make sure there's plenty of tread. There's plenty of tread on this tire. I don't think I'm going to replace it, but it is nearing the end of its life, so I would say that this will be the last year that's on there. I don't wait and wear the treads down completely. And the other thing you want to do is just look around the bead here and make sure that there's no deep cracks here in the tire. I store my camper inside, so I don't have the rot from the sun like others would if it was outside. But if you store your camper outside, you definitely want to look at this, and you might want to consider putting something over the tire to keep from getting UV breakdown of the tire. But this tire looks like it's pretty good. We're just going to keep it. So one of the things I want to do while I have this off is do some inspection of some other areas, and I'm going to do the inspection prior to greasing this, just because I don't want to make sure I don't want to step in some grease or anything. But what you want to do is you want to look underneath here and make sure that this is not separated from the frame any, and just look for any kind of damage here. So I looked at it and it's pretty good. Now I want to show you something else to check. I'm going to pull the camera in closer so you can see. Now something I want to show you is that these springs shackles come up here, and you got the spring shackles, and then it is welded to the frame here. It's welded on the front and the back. Now we're not going to look at the back right this minute, but that's one of the things I want to make sure that you pay close attention to. So I have heard of these cracking in some places, and I'll be honest with you, for the most part it comes from hitting something on the road, like a curb or something, or falling off in a hole really bad. Also, these can get fatigue cracked. Now I tell you what, this is like the third camper I've owned, third RV, and this is not something that's unique to Runaway campers. Almost all these campers, you got to check this. It takes a beating back here, especially on the tire on the driver's side, because the tire on the passenger side, because it's riding on the shoulder of the road, and sometimes it gets it gets hit on some stuff. So take a look at these welds and see if there's any cracks in here. You want to make sure that there's no cracks, and then look at these bolts and make sure that they're okay. So sometimes they wear out or wear. These look just fine. You can see there's a little bit of wear right here where this shackle is going up and down on the bracket here. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but this is very important to take a look at. Make sure that you take this off and check it. This is the main reason why once a year I want to take the wheel off, because if that got cracked, this could be a disaster. Now it would be a disaster if it fell off, but it's not a tough repair. You can have a weld shop do it, and it's probably, I would say it'd probably be $100, and it'd be a pretty quick repair. So I'm taking a look at the springs. Everything looks pretty good. I think I'll talk about this in a minute, but typically about every other year I paint all this underneath here. Now last year I painted it with like some bed lining, Rust-Oleum spray paint, and it's held up really well, so I will not be painting it this year. Let's get back, now that we've inspected this, let's get back and look at our how we're going to grease our axles. Okay, we're going to speed things up a little bit here. What I do is I take a bag and hang over the axle there, because we're going to pump out all the excess grease, and if you put that bag there, it will catch everything that's coming out. The good thing is I just keep pumping and pumping and pumping until I see all the new red grease come through, and then I know that I am good to go. Put the cap back on, and here we go. Okay, put the wheel back on and tighten up the lug nuts by hand. What I want to do next is I want to set the camper down on the ground after I get these snugged up. That way we can put a torque wrench on it and tighten them to 70 foot-pounds, and then you should be good to go with no worries. So I hope that was helpful to you and help you understand what takes place when you grease the axles. I understand that some of you are not going to want to try this yourself, but one of the things that you can see is if you see it done, you can get an idea about how much a mechanic would charge you. this should not take over an hour for a mechanic to do. You only see me do one side, but because I only wanted to film one side, but we did both sides. And like I said, the mechanic shouldn't charge you more than an hour to do this. And so it's in a reasonable price to do once a year, just for the peace of mind knowing that everything's good. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to crawl underneath the camper and we're going to do some inspection just to see how things are looking under there. All right, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. I'm going to try to hold the flashlight and the camera. So what I want to do is I want to look at all this frame, and I painted it last year and I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. You can see there's a little bit of rust there, but this is where the A-frame is, and I want to make sure that, you know, the welds aren't cracked here. This isn't, you know, you don't have to do a big inspection, but I can see there's no cracking here. And let me look back here, you can see now. One of the things I've done is, since I've crawled underneath here before I took the camera down here, is I noticed we got a problem that I had no idea was here. So you can see that the paint is just fine, but let me see if I can get this camera adjusted right here. So see that big divot in the metal? So I don't know if you recall from some of our videos a while back, I hit a big turnbuckle on the highway and it blew the tire, cut a tire down in the van, and you know, made a mess there. But let me back up here and show you something that's really a bad thing here. It also knocked a big hole in the camper. So you can see that the wood, there's a hole. It doesn't look like it went all the way through. Let's see if I can get this down like this. And hopefully you can see it there. It doesn't look like it went all the way through the subfloor, but it's a pretty big hole here. What happened was it came up and it hit there and broke. So this needs to be fixed, because if not, water's going to get up underneath this here and ruin my plywood. So I've come up with a plan to fix this, and so I'm going to run and get my supplies and I'll be right back. But you can see this does not look good. Hopefully the camera's picking it up like I want to, but we got to repair this. So I got an idea. Let me get right back, and we're going to fix that. I'm not going to fix the wood because I think it's all right, but we definitely got to seal this up so water doesn't get in here anymore. All right, what I got here is, as seen on TV, you know, you've seen this stuff called Flex Seal. So I've got some patches here that I bought. I'm going to put on these here and try to get it sealed up. Now, before I do that, I'm going to take some isopropyl alcohol on a paper towel, and I'm going to try and see if I can, let me get the light on this so it's, hopefully you can see this all right. I'm kind of trying to figure this out as I go. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I've got some isopropyl alcohol here, and I'm going to clean this around there so that I get a good seal and it adheres well. Look at all the grease and everything that's underneath here from road grind. I think this is going to be all right. I mean, it's not ideal that I knocked a hole in the bottom of my camper, but these are the kind of things that if you don't do an inspection of your camper every once in a while, you know, you're going to come back and say, my camper's full of mold, or my floor's rotted, or something like that. I'm not making fun of people that do that, but you know, now you know that you got to get underneath here and take a look at this stuff, because I would say by, you know, the end of summer, if I wouldn't have seen this, this would be all swelled up and just rotted. So, all right, let's get this Flex Seal patch out and see how it looks here. I have never used one of these before. I was telling Nancy about this, and she picked this thing up, so, and found it. She was like, hey, what about that Flex Seal stuff? So, sounded like a good idea to me. It's pretty thick. So, it looks like there's a couple pieces in the package here. So, I'll take one there, maybe a piece there. I don't know if I should cut it and try to, yeah, maybe I'll cut it, and that way we'll have enough to do one of these at each patch, because I think I see another spot down in the back there. So anyway, let's take a second and cut this real quick. Here we go. So got that piece here. I'm gonna put this one here, and I'll put the other one there. I think it'll do. So yeah, it looks like just like any other regular tape. I don't have any fingernails. Let's see here. There we go. Just peel the backing off of it, and we're gonna make sure I get it all covered so it goes about right to there. And wow, that stuff's pretty sticky. Like I said, I've never used it before, but looks like it's gonna patch that up just fine. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let me get the other piece here out, and let's put it on there too, and then we'll look around some more. All right, here's the other little patch. Needs to be made. That looks pretty good. You know, I don't think that's gonna leak or anything. So anyway, while I'm underneath here, I'm just checking out, making sure everything else is okay. I don't, in this particular spot, I don't see anything else, but I did see one on the back that is concerning me. And we're gonna crawl around back there, but yeah, that's pretty good. So as you can see, look there, boy, put a big old dent in the axle right there too. So I think it's okay, but boy, it really made a mess. You can see that I got some grease on the back side of my wheel. That's from last time I got a little carried away with the grease and kind of made a mess. But anyway, I'm not that concerned about that. The seal is fine. I've already checked it. So anyway, let's move around to the back and take a look. So I moved around here to the back, and I got the same situation right here. It's not as bad. So apparently something bumped up here and hit this. There's some little bitty holes in this, but not, this is fine over here, but I see some little holes right there. So I'm going to take this Flex Seal patch and put over right there where I see the holes, and that way I'm sure that no water is going to get underneath that. So let's do the same thing we did at the other end, and let's just wash it off with some alcohol. So we got that washed off. You know, and as my, I say washed off, but as my friends in southern Missouri where I grew up, that would be, you gotta wash that with alcohol. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We're washing it, and just give it a second to dry, and then I'm gonna stick that Flex Seal patch up there, and I think we're good. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this Flex Seal stuff looks pretty good. Like I said, I've not used it before. I don't know how expensive it was. Nancy bought it, but anyway, so now I got a patch on there, and yeah, pretty happy with that. So now I'm sure no water's going to get up in there. So I pointed this out in other videos before, but right here is where the wires come through to the tongue, and I want to show you something. So you see this screw right here? This white wire is the ground wire for the trailer system. And I always see on Facebook, I see things where people are putting that their lights have quit working and they don't know what's going on. This is always very suspect right here. So it gets corroded and it doesn't want to make a good ground. So prior to me leaving today, I am going to take that nut off there, and I am going to take a wire brush and clean it off. Now I'm not going to show you doing it, but just keep that in mind, that that's something that needs to be done every once in a while, is clean this ground off, because that will certainly cause you a lot of problems. Now don't forget, you have 3 tires. Most people think 2 tires. We got 1 on each side. There's also a spare tire, and you want to make sure that you get that checked also, because there's nothing more frustrating than pulling your spare out and it being flat. But I will got to say, if you make sure you keep an eye on your trailer tires for wear and things like that, you'll lessen your opportunities to get a flat. But you know, every once in a while you run over something on the highway like I did a few weeks ago, and you got a problem. So you know, I don't know what the manufacturer calls on these tires. I think oh my, I should look this up ahead of time, but probably about 45 pounds or something like that. Myself, I like to keep them around 35 pounds. I found that when I first got the Runaway, I got on the highway, that thing bounced all over the place, and I stopped and let some air out of the tires, and man, it really smoothed the ride out. So you can see that, you know, I test this out, I got about 35 pounds of air in the tire. So buy you a cheap tire gauge and check it. And so I got 35 in my tires, and I'm ready to go. So I checked the other sides earlier, so we're good. One thing I do, just as a precaution, is every time I stop and get gas, I just walk back here, put my hand on the lug nuts, and feel if I got a hot tire. If it's too hot for you to touch, then you got a problem with your bearing. To save you some time. So yeah, that's a really quick, easy check, and gives you some exercise walking around. So make sure you check your lug nuts when you're stopped for gas. Good tip. Hey, so that's my tips on maintenance on the Runaway. Got a couple tips here on the van itself. Now, there's plenty of maintenance videos out there, so I'm not going to go into all that and check it. But you know, make sure you check your oil, and make sure you check your coolant level and your tires. Make sure those are all really good. And honestly, if you got oil and coolant, and your engine doesn't get hot, it'll last a long time. Prevent yourself from having some troubles. I got another tip I'd like to share with you guys here that I found pretty helpful, especially when you're driving old vehicles. I think you'll like it. I just realized that I left my hat under the van, so I got to run it back and get that. Hey there, guy's got to have his hat on, that's for sure, especially if he's doing mechanic and stuff. Hey, let me show you something here I think you'll find interesting. So this tip is something I think is really good for you. Even if you don't know anything about cars, you can always plug something in, right? So you can buy these little code readers for, I paid $19 for this at Walmart, and it plugs in right here underneath the dash. So even if you don't know anything and you're out traveling, sometimes your check engine light would come on, and then you're just all freaked out. You don't know if it's something serious or that. And the other thing too is, if you kind of have an idea about what's wrong, you know, somebody's not going to rip you off because you got a little bit of education. So I would say, you know, you can't really hurt much by plugging it in and reading the codes. Get you one of these and learn how to use it. Have a friend show you, or you can go to you know, O'Reilly Auto Parts or something. They'll show you how to use it. But this is a good thing. So you, if your check engine light comes on, you just plug this in, and then you turn the key on and you hit enter, and it's going through and it's reading the code. Now you can see it says no codes found. All right. So, and it says everything's okay. If there was a code there, it would tell you what's wrong with it. So if it's like this van, one of the main things it does is, if you don't get the gas cap on tight, it will throw a code. So, you know, when you're traveling down the road and that light comes on, you don't know if you got your gas cap on wrong or what the deal is. So I like these things. I have one, and I keep it in the car here at all times. And that way, if I have some problems on the road, I can always figure out what it is. Most of the time I can fix things myself, but if I have to go to a mechanic, at least I know they're not gonna hornswaggle me, as they say. So anyway, yeah, get you one of these for 20 bucks is a good idea. So hey, so I hope that some of the tips I gave you today will help you out as you travel and on your road trips. And one of the things I always tell people is, like, you could get a brand new car with less than 10,000 miles, and it's still going to break down at some point or another. I've seen people be left on the side of the road. Don't be fearful. Don't let fear ruin your life or rule your life. Things will happen, and yes, occasionally you'll find a bad actor that'll get you and rip you off. But I gotta say, we've broke down several times, and I think you know, maybe it's an answer to prayer, but we always pray that God would watch over us and protect us. And you know, we have never really ran into any bad actors. We've always had nice people that have come help us out, and you know, just been there when we need it. So look, I'd say get out there on the road, have fun, don't freak out about your vehicle breaking down, relax and enjoy the trip. So I hope these tips helped you out. We'll get Nancy in here on the next video, but this is more my expertise. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye now.